You don't know what it's like. They're all watching me. Even you. That's the last thing my little brother Christian said to me before disappearing again. He had a baby on the way, drugs in his backpack, and fear in his eyes that didn't come from the streets. And I wish I could tell you we saw it coming. But the truth is, we thought we raised him right. My name's Alejandro, but everyone calls me Alex. I'm the oldest of 3, born and raised in San Antonio, Texas, in a small yellow house that always smelled like fresh tortillas and Fabuloso. My parents, Javier and Isabel Rivera, didn't have much, but they gave us everything that mattered. Structure, tradition, respect, and the kind of discipline that didn't need belts. Just a sharp look from my mom across the room. My sister Lucia is the youngest, the golden child, the peacekeeper. And Christian, well, Christian was the one we never quite understood. We didn't grow up in a bad neighborhood. We weren't rich, but our block was filled with hardworking families, quinceañeras in backyards, and old ladies watering plants at sunset. We were taught that family comes first. You respect your elders, and if you get a girl pregnant, you marry her, or you show up for that child. So when Christian started going off track, it felt like watching a movie where you already know the ending, but you still pray it'll change. Christian was always different. Not in a bad way. At least not at first. He was funny, super sharp, and knew how to charm a room even as a kid. My mom used to call him El Charismatico. But around 13 or 14, something shifted. He got quieter at home, but louder in the streets. He started sneaking out, hanging around older boys who had neck tattoos and gold jeans and spoken code. Then came the weed, the skipped classes, the new phone numbers in his contacts every week. We tried to stop it early. My dad sat him down, man to man, and said, "You want to end up in jail or in a box? That's where that life leads." Christian shrugged. "Better than working some dead-end job for $10 an hour like you." I swear I saw my dad's soul crack in half that night. I'd pull Christian aside when he came home smelling like smoke and cheap perfume. "Bro, you're smarter than this." "What are you doing?" He'd always dodge the question. Say stuff like, "You don't get it. I can't sleep in this house anymore." I hear stuff. People are watching me. I see the same car parked down the block every night. At first, I thought he was just being paranoid. Maybe gang beef, maybe drug dealers. But it wasn't just the paranoia. He'd argue with himself under his breath. Laugh out loud when no one said anything. Go from calm to rage in seconds, like someone flipped a switch. But every time we mentioned getting help, like real help, a doctor, a counselor, he'd explode. "I ain't crazy. I just see the world for what it is." So we backed off. We shouldn't have. He got his first girlfriend pregnant at 14. We didn't even know until her cousin showed up at our door and started yelling in the driveway. My mom fainted. My dad went silent for 3 whole days. Christian didn't deny it, but he didn't care either. "She knew what it was," he said. "She wanted it too. I ain't the only one." He had no plan, no apology, just a smirk like he was untouchable. That baby was born and raised by her mother's family. Christian never showed up once, not even to see the baby's face. And from there, it only got worse. By 16, Christian was traveling with a small crew, hitting cities like Houston, El Paso, even crossing into Mexico. He called it moving weight, like it was a business. He said they had girls in every city, one-night flings, mostly women who thought he was just passing through, which he was. Christian once bragged to me, "I probably got 5 kids out there and don't even know it." I remember saying, "That's not funny, bro." He just shrugged. They ain't looking for me. They knew what it was. I wish I could say I hated him in that moment. But I didn't. I pitied him. Because deep down, I knew this wasn't just rebellion. Something was broken and we couldn't reach it. Then came Camila. She was 17 at the time. Quiet, polite, brown eyes that looked older than her age. Not like the other girls Christian bragged about. She showed up to our house one afternoon, clutching her stomach and crying. "Christian's the father. I didn't know where else to go. I'm not here for money. I don't want to do this alone." My mom cried. My dad offered her a seat and brought out food. They believed her. I did too. Christian? He called her a liar. I don't even remember her, bro. She probably just wants a check. We tried to get him to take a test. He refused. Then he disappeared again, this time for weeks. He never came back. Christian was shot in a drug-related robbery in Laredo. A drive-by gone wrong, or maybe a setup. We don't know. The last thing he ever posted online was a blurry photo of himself with blood on his hoodie and the caption, "No regrets. See y'all in hell." That was the day we all realized we had lost him a long time ago. The body just hadn't caught up. We buried Christian Rivera on a hot gray Thursday in April. The church was half full. Some came to mourn, others just came to see if the rumors were true. Gang presence was low, which my dad had begged for. We wanted no colors, no noise, no drama. Just peace. My mom, Isabel, clutched Christian's photo the whole time. Not a recent one either. It was a school picture from 6th grade. Before the tattoos, before the hoodie and red eyes. When he still smiled like a boy who believed in something. I stood up to say a few words. I tried. But my voice cracked halfway through. All I could get out was, he was ours. Even when he didn't act like it, and we loved him anyway. Then I sat back down. After the service, Camila Torres sat quietly next to my mom. 7 months pregnant, hands resting on her belly, like she was shielding her child from all the pain around her. She didn't cry. Not because she didn't care. She just didn't have any tears left. She had already mourned Christian the day he ran away. This funeral was just confirmation. She looked at my mom and whispered, "I still want him to know who his father was, even if it's just through stories." And my mom, who had just lost her son, reached over and grabbed Camila's hand like she'd always belonged to us. From that moment, Camila was family. You don't need a private investigator when you've got a big Mexican family and chismosas on Facebook. 2 days after the funeral, my cousin Anna forwarded me a screenshot of a woman in Houston claiming Christian was her baby's dad. Then came another. And another. 3 different women in 3 different cities. All saying the same thing. I met him once. He disappeared. He never answered after I told him. He said his name was Chris, but I found his real name in an old text. We couldn't confirm any of it. Christian never used his real name, his real number, or even his real story with most people. But something in my gut told me. He probably wasn't lying when he said, "I probably got 5 kids out there." Instead of denying it, getting angry, or running from the shame, Javier and Isabel Rivera stepped up. They didn't go on Facebook. They didn't argue with strangers. They just focused on Camila and the one baby we knew for sure was ours. They helped set up her doctor appointments, bought baby supplies, even had her move into the spare bedroom so she wouldn't have to finish her pregnancy alone. My dad even repaired the old crib from when Lucia was born. I asked him one night, "Why are you doing all this? She's not your responsibility." He looked at me and said, "Because Christian didn't know how to be a father. So now I have to show his son what a real one looks like." On a cloudy morning in June, Mateo Rivera Torres came into the world screaming like he already had something to say. He had Christian's thick dark hair and my mother's nose. Camila let us all be in the room. It was messy, emotional, sacred. She asked us if it was okay to give him Christian's last name. And for the first time in months, my mom smiled. "Of course, mija, he is a Rivera." Mateo wasn't a secret. He was our redemption. My little sister Lucia was 21 then, just starting her 2nd year of college. She'd always been close to Christian, even when he pushed everyone else away. She used to say, "He's not bad, he's just broken." But after his death, she said it less. Instead, she started asking questions none of us wanted to face. Do you think Christian had schizophrenia? What if it wasn't just drugs or gangs? What if he was sick this whole time? I didn't know how to answer, but I started thinking about all the paranoia, the weird conversations with himself, the way he'd snap out of nowhere and then cry like he didn't remember doing it. Maybe it wasn't just rebellion. Maybe we missed something deeper. One night, I went through an old box Christian kept hidden in the garage. It had scribbled lyrics, mixtapes he made with his crew, and a spiral notebook. Inside were pages and pages of ramblings. Some were raps. Others were disturbing. They hear me thinking. They talk through the TV. Don't eat the food, they poison it. Alex is in on it too. That last one, it stopped me cold. It felt like I was reading the mind of a ghost. We had a family dinner weeks later. Mateo was in the bouncer next to Camila. Lucia was quiet. My mom just kept staring at the food. And then she said it. Christian might have been sick. We all looked up. I thought it was just the drugs, or the gangs, or the streets. But maybe it was something else. something we should have helped him with. My dad wiped his eyes. I failed him. But Lucia shook her head. No, you didn't. You did everything you knew how to do. Now we just have to do better for Mateo. My mom started going to church groups and sharing Christian's story. Not the sugar-coated version, the real one. She would say, he was a good boy who made bad choices, but maybe his brain made some of those choices for him. My dad spoke at a local youth center. Lucia helped organize a mental health seminar on early signs of schizophrenia in teens. We didn't do it for clout. We did it because we didn't want another family to suffer in silence like we did. To this day, I don't know how many children Christian left behind. Some women stopped responding when we offered help. Some demanded proof. Others never contacted us again. But we made a vow as a family. If any child ever shows up saying they're Christians, we won't turn them away, because Christian may have failed as a father, but we won't. What if it wasn't just rebellion? A few months after Christian died, my sister Lucia sat on the couch, legs crossed, holding a baby spoon for Mateo, who was drooling on her jeans. She looked up at me and said, I think Christian had schizophrenia. I paused. You think? She nodded, dead serious. He had all the signs. I've been reading. I didn't say anything at first, just sat there and let that hit me, because deep down, I'd thought the same thing. But it's different when someone says it out loud. Lucia started listing things off like a checklist. He started pulling away around 13 or 14. His emotions would flip like a switch, laughing one minute, furious the next. He always thought someone was watching him. He stopped trusting us, even Mom. He thought the TV was sending him messages. He heard voices when no one was talking, and it hit me like a punch to the chest. Those weren't just bad habits. They were symptoms. We thought he was being difficult. We thought it was the gangs, the weed, the anger, the streets. We never thought it could be his brain. A week later, I went back into Christian's box, his old lyrics notebook. I'd skimmed it before, but I never really read it. Page after page, the writing became less like music and more like madness. They're coming for me. You can't trust her. She's wired. Every light on the street is blinking in code. Even Alex is lying to me. That last one, my name. It crushed me. I was the one who always stood up for him, and he still thought I was out to get him. That's when I knew. Christian didn't just lose himself. He couldn't find himself. You might wonder, why didn't we take him to a psychiatrist? A doctor? Why didn't we get him tested? Because in our culture, in our community, mental illness isn't always treated like real illness. You're told he's being disrespectful. He needs to be disciplined. You need to pray harder. And so we did. We prayed, we yelled. We grounded him. We took him to church, but we never took him to a clinic because no one wants to admit their son might be loco. So we ignored the signs until it was too late. One night, I found my mom in the kitchen, eyes puffy, face down in her Bible. She looked up and whispered, I failed him. I said, no, you didn't. But she kept shaking her head. I knew something wasn't right, but I was too proud to admit it. I didn't want my boy to be sick. That kind of guilt doesn't leave. It clings. It ages you. My dad, Javier, never talks about feelings, but one night he walked into the garage and sat on the old stool Christian used to fix his bike. He stared straight ahead and said, I treated him like a problem instead of a person. That's all he said. Then he just sat there, not moving, for almost an hour. Sometimes silence is louder than shouting. At the next family gathering, my mom did something brave. She stood up in front of our relatives, tias, tios, cousins, grandparents, and told the truth. Christian may have had schizophrenia. We didn't see it. Or maybe we did, and we didn't want to believe it. People looked stunned. Some nodded slowly, others avoided eye contact. But my mom kept going. If your child is acting strange, don't just assume they're bad. Ask more questions. Get help. It might not be rebellion. It might be something they can't control. She said it in English and in Spanish, so no one could say they didn't understand. Lucia made pamphlets for her college campus. My dad handed out resources at church. I spoke at a barbershop event for young men of color and shared Christian's story. The more we talked, the more we heard the same story from others. My cousin acts like that. My little brother went through something similar. I thought it was just drugs, too. We weren't the only ones who missed it. We were just one of the few who finally admitted it. Camila could have run. She could have taken Mateo and gone quiet, cut ties with us, tried to move on with her life. But she stayed. She told us, Christian wasn't good to me, but I think he was sick, and I don't want Mateo to grow up hating him. She became part of the Rivera family, not out of pity, but out of purpose. She went back to school, started therapy, became an advocate for young single mothers, and when she graduated with her GED, she wore Christian's necklace under her gown. Not for him, but for Mateo. One day, Mateo toddled over to my mom and said, Abue? Short for abuela. My mom cried so hard she couldn't even speak. That was the moment we all realized. Christian left us broken, but his son gave us something to build again. After Christian's death, we didn't just grieve, we relearned how to live. And Mateo became the center of that healing. We all played a part. Camila was the strongest, balancing school and motherhood without complaining. My mom, Isabel, became a full-time abuela, cooking, rocking Mateo to sleep, and praying over him like he was a second chance. My dad, Javier, finally softened. He stopped working long hours and started reading bedtime stories. Lucia used her college studies to teach Mateo little Spanish poems and animal facts. And me? I did what Christian never did. I showed up. Every birthday, every checkup, every preschool graduation. I wasn't his dad, but I was his Tio, and that title meant everything. People always assumed Camila was just another teenage girl caught in a mistake, but they were wrong. She didn't fold. She studied while rocking Mateo in one arm. She worked weekends while taking online classes. She never begged for sympathy, only respect. When she earned her associate's degree, we threw her a small backyard party. Mateo wore a little cap. Camila wore a smile I hadn't seen since before the baby. My mom toasted to her in Spanish. You didn't let this pain destroy you. You let it grow you. Christian didn't know how to love, but you do. And so does Mateo. At first, it was hard to talk about Christian publicly. We were scared people would think that family failed. But the more we talked, the more people leaned in. My mom spoke at churches, community centers, and even middle schools. She didn't sugarcoat anything. Christian was charming, but paranoid. Smart, but confused. Loving one day, hateful the next. That wasn't just behavior, that was illness. And we missed it. Lucia helped organize a mental health awareness day on campus, telling Christian's story to other students, especially in the Latino community where mental health is still a taboo. Even I, the quiet one, started sharing Christian's story with the young men at my job. Most of them had brothers or cousins just like him. We weren't doing this for attention. We were doing it so Christian wouldn't be forgotten as just another headline. Mateo turned 5, then 7, then 10. And with every year, he started asking more questions. Where's my dad? Was he mean? Why don't I have pictures of him? Camila always answered gently. She never lied, but she never poured poison into his mind either. She'd say, your dad was confused, Mijo. He didn't know how to love the right way. But he gave me you, and that's something I'll never regret. When Mateo asked if he was like his dad, we all told him, you're your own person. You're loved, you're safe, and you have a whole family who's going to walk with you every step. At his 5th grade graduation, Mateo stood on stage, smiling and holding a certificate. They asked each kid what they wanted to be when they grew up. Mateo said, I want to be a therapist, like the ones who help kids talk about their feelings. The entire room clapped. I looked over at Camila. She was crying into her sleeve. My mom whispered, Él está rompiendo el ciclo. He's breaking the cycle. Lucia didn't just talk about Christian anymore. She built programs around his story. She earned her degree in social work and launched a bilingual nonprofit for families dealing with adolescent mental illness. She named it Puente, which means bridge. Her goal was to connect underserved families to therapists, support groups, and resources. She said, if Christian had just one bridge, one person to walk him across that darkness, maybe he'd still be here. I became a dad 2 years ago, a little girl named Noelia, with chubby cheeks and my wife's laugh. And there's not a single day I don't think about Christian when I look at her. I tell her I love her too much. I listen too closely. And when she cries and I don't understand why, I don't just hush her. I ask. Because if Christian taught me anything, it's this. A child doesn't need a perfect parent, just one who's present, one who pays attention. I know it might sound crazy, but sometimes when I'm alone in the car or in the backyard, I talk to Christian. I tell him, your son is growing up strong. Camila's okay. Mom forgave you. Dad cries when no one's looking. And Lucia? She turned your pain into purpose. Then I usually pause and say, I hope you found peace, Hermano. We're finding ours, one day at a time. We took a family photo this past Christmas. Camila, Mateo, my wife, our baby, my parents, Lucia, and her fiancé. We stood in front of the tree, Mateo holding a small frame of Christian's 6th grade school picture. My mom smiled and said, we are still a family, even with one seat empty. And maybe that's what this whole journey was about. Not pretending everything's okay, but loving each other anyway, and choosing to do better. Not just for Christian, but for every child like him. If you're a parent, and one of your kids seems off, not just rebellious, but distant, paranoid, unpredictable, don't ignore it. Don't just say it's a phase. Don't just pray it away. Get help, ask questions, research, talk to a professional. Because sometimes what looks like defiance is really distress. We missed the signs, but we won't stay silent anymore. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed, please like, share, and subscribe for more content. If you want to share your stories, please comment below. Additionally, what is your opinion on the poster's decision?